All right, welcome everybody to this edition of Inside the Isles. As always, I'm Aiden Northcott. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Hope you guys had a fantastic Victoria Day long weekend. I know here on the island it was beautiful. Hopefully, wherever you were watching from, it was as incredible as it was here. I think I spent most of the weekend outside, and surprisingly, do not have a burner tan to show for it. So lots of time for that though. Anyways. My guest today doesn't need much of an introduction, I don't think, but for those who might not be familiar with him, he's a former Charlottetown Islander, former PEI Rocket as well. Was having a career season with Colorado Avalanche this year, putting up almost 30 points and leading the NHL with a plus 46 before the play was suspended due to this pandemic. He is none other than we'll call him an honorary Islander in terms of the fact that he lives here now. And Yarmouth, Nova Scotia native Ryan Graves. Ryan, thanks for joining me here to see this evening.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Awesome. So I start this interview the same way with the same two questions. So I'll start with you. Where have you been spending your time during this pandemic, and what has been your go-to self-isolation outfit?
I'm I'm back on PEI. I flew back as soon as our season ended. Pretty much our whole team kind of got out of Denver. There was quite a few cases there, so we came back to Canada as soon as possible, just to be around family and be in a familiar area and stuff like that. So I've been back here since mid to late March, and just same thing as everybody else, just laying low, a lot of time at home. But I spent a lot of time in my gym shorts and a comfy sweater. So it's been nice. I haven't had jeans on in 2 months now. So it's been a change of pace for sure, but kind of doing the same thing as everybody else, just waiting this thing out.
So it's funny that you said, like, I haven't put on jeans in probably 2 months. I was talking to P.O. Joseph last week, and he said the exact same thing. And my response was, I need to wear jeans at least like once, maybe twice a week to remind myself that, like, I am a human and I'm not just a total bag of dirt in sweats or in shorts like that all the time. It's a nice reminder of what it feels like to actually wear real clothes.
Yeah, I'll let you know in a few weeks whenever we get out of this. But for now, I'm sticking to my gym shorts.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Now, the next question I have for you is less of a question and just more of a generic statement. So, You and I were chatting just here before we started, and you actually have, and some fans would know this, some might not, have a connection still to this current Islanders team. Why don't you talk about that?
Yeah. So I mean, people that know me and people that know Thomas would obviously know that I have been dating Thomas's sister since my time on the island here. We've been together 7 years now. So yeah, I know their family well. Spent a lot of time around them. So obviously, I still follow the team. I follow Thomas, and I get the updates from his parents all the time of how he's doing, and they're following along with me too. So hockey's a small world. So obviously, it's nice to have someone else that you can kind of talk hockey with, and his dad is pretty knowledgeable too. So it's nice to be around that, and yeah, that's the connection to for those who know either one of us.
Now, are you hoping for that a moment one day where he's kind of coming down your wing and you're gonna have to like square him up or line him up against the boards?
No, you, you don't want to make enemies with the family. So I used to when that's what I used to live with Cameron Kiley when I played for the Islanders, and when he was first, I lived with him when he played midget hockey on the island. He was drafted to Gatineau, and I was still living with his family, and he came here to play as Gatineau, and everyone was asking me like, "Are you looking for the chance to line him up?" And I said, "No, I still have to go home to his parents afterwards, so no chance."
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. So you actually then had the opportunity to play with Cam, if I'm not mistaken, for that first part of the Charlottetown, the first inaugural Islanders season. Um, how is that play? Going from obviously playing against him on Gatineau and living with his family to turning around and living with him and being a teammate of his.
Yeah, Cam and I are really good friends. We were when I first moved in. We're really good, close to this day still. So it was honestly a blessing. His family's awesome, so it was great for me. But it was great. It's like living with a brother and getting to share the same experiences. So we were traveling together when he eventually got traded to the Islanders. We were traveling together, and we spent pretty much every minute together. So that was awesome. It was so cool, and obviously it's something that has made us still close to this day. And he's following along his journey. Congrats to him for signing with the Minnesota Wild organization. So he's kind of got his foot in the door there, and he's on his way. But yeah, he's a good hockey player, and I hope to someday have the chance to play against him again.
Yeah, that's awesome news for him. For those who don't know, obviously Cam signing a deal with the AHL's Iowa Wild, the Minnesota Wild's farm team with the AHL. So big opportunity for him and a deserving one too, because he's a guy that like he had a number of camps, if I'm not mistaken, coming up through. I think it was like L.A., Carolina, just like Winnipeg. I think was another one. Like he was all over the place. It's good to see him finally get that chance, especially after doing so well at UPEI.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he had a really good junior career. He was really good in midget. And obviously, he continued that on UPEI. So I'm happy for him. He made the right decision. I think going to UPEI first with education, and then he could take the step to pro hockey. And you see that happen a lot now, where CIS is developing and see some guys come out of there. I mean, obviously Joel Ward was the first one to do it, but see more and more guys that are coming out of there that take the step to pro hockey and have success. So I wish the best for him, and I'm sure he'll do just fine.
Yeah, that was like one of our assistant coaches now, Kevin Henderson. That was kind of his path too. Was doing. He started at UNB, did a couple years there, and then actually signed a deal with the Milwaukee Admirals. Did the AHL run with with Nashville's farm team. Got the call up and actually got a couple games in too. So great to see
Yeah,
good to see a couple of examples, especially here locally, make it make it big.
sure. You see it more and more now, the
Yeah.
different paths to get to the NHL, and everyone has their own path. So, like I said, I wish the best for him.
All right, so enough about everybody else. Let's talk about you a little bit. As I mentioned off the top, having an unreal season with Colorado. It was your first full year because you got called up last year to the Avalanche and stuck around. But your first full season and leading leading all NHL players in a category known for defensive play. Obviously, with that, I think it was a plus 46. Um, some of the names that were up there, just like would have been probably staples. Things like names like Zdeno Chara was right behind you. I'm trying to think off the top. There were so many big names, but you led everybody. How does it? It seems like you take a little bit of pride in your defensive play as well as your offense, because like I said, 30 points too this year.
Yeah, I mean, plus minus is a stat that some people don't like, and I've always kind of been a little skeptical of it. But for me, it's kind of like it's not like I go into the season hoping to be an end result of plus whatever. It's you just going in each night. You want to be a plus player. You want to be good defensively, and usually that means you're keeping pucks at your own net, and hopefully there's some offense comes from that. So for me, I just go in each game hoping to be either even or a plus. And I guess if you're having a good year and you're having success, and that just kind of accumulates. But part of it's also a team stat. You see guys on bad teams that are usually a minus, and most guys in a good team are usually a plus. So part of that is obviously teammates and the team that I'm on. So I'm plus 40 something, and I don't have that many points. So obviously, it's not me putting the puck in net every time or me creating the offense. So a lot of it is just being on a good team and fortunate to be on the ice at the right time. But I think on a nightly basis, it is something that I concentrate on and never focus on, and concentrate on the defensive side of the game, which kind of comes along with that.
It's funny that you mentioned that people are a little skeptical of the stat because it's true. Um, a lot of the advanced stat community kind of looks down on it for the reasons that you said, that it is kind of like an overall team encompassing. You could be on the ice for 20 goals for and just happen to be changing for, as you know,
Yeah.
coming off the ice as 20 goals are scored, but it's going to reflect as a plus 20. I've always wondered, and I've never actually asked anybody this at the NHL level, how much do you guys like look into advanced stats? Like I know a lot of teams have like those advanced stats departments now that's, are able to break it down into like digestible information. How big is that? Like is that something you focus on, or is that something that you're familiar with?
Um, I mean, it's definitely something we take into consideration. I think there are some things that you can see from a team. We definitely use them. Our coach brings them up, and I mean, I personally and the other players aren't going on the website and looking up what other teams' courses are, or where they're shooting from, or where their hot zones are. But if we're having a meeting before a game and we're talking about Chicago Blackhawks or anyone that we're going to be playing that night, we'll see where they're shooting from, and we'll see what their offensive zone time is and what their courses are like, and kind of it does give a more in-depth look of what their team and what, the way they play, and how good they are, and maybe if they're maybe not as good as their wins, or maybe they're better than their losses show. So I think it is definitely something that we look at. Obviously, with all stats, there's a you have to take it with a grain of salt, and you can't put all the weight in the world onto it. But it is definitely something we look at, and it's kind of cool seeing some things of um, like just expected goals, and then how guys are scoring and where they're shooting from and things like that. And as it stands getting more advanced, I think people are putting a little more importance on them, and we definitely do follow them.
You mentioned obviously a benefit to your plus minus. Some of your stats are being around great teammates, and you have a number of them yourself. Obviously, probably the biggest name of them being Nathan MacKinnon. What's it like to be able to see a guy like that? I asked Ross Johnson about this a couple weeks ago about Matthew Barzell.
Mhm.
But what's it like to see a guy like Nathan MacKinnon and go through his everyday routine to be one of the best players in the league? Because this is a guy that you would have played and would have seen on a regular basis on the other side of the puck when you were playing with the Rocket and he was playing with the Halifax Mooseheads.
Yeah, I mean, Nate from a young age has always been. They label him as the next Sidney Crosby at a young age, and he's had a lot of pressure on him, and he's been the best player of his age group in the country for years, and he continued to live up to that. And we obviously separated for a while. We took different paths to get to the NHL, but it's a pleasure to be around him. He's the kind of guy that keeps guys accountable. He works extremely hard himself, and um, he's super competitive. And I think he's the kind of guy that makes your team better. He brings intensity to the game that kind of trickles down the lineup, and guys feel it, and guys follow him. I mean, he's a leader on our team, and he's not just a leader because he's our best player. He's our most skilled player. He leads our points categories, but he leads by example. He's in the gym all the time. He's in great shape. In every game he wants to be the guy that's a difference maker. He's leading the way. So he's a really good pro, and he's someone that the fans. I think the fans like him, but the fans should like him because he's a hard worker, and he's a nice guy off the ice. And it's a pleasure to be able to play with him. You see how talented he is, and he makes everybody around him better.
You definitely see that and how he makes guys around him better, both both on the back end and on the front end as well. Because him playing with guys like Landeskog, Rantanen, like you guys have like a solid squad. So to be able to see him, and for those who don't watch Colorado often, like as many fans out here probably wouldn't, like you'd know it yourself, like most guys out here would be watching the Torontos, the Bostons, the Montreals.
Mhm.
Talk about what it's like to see, especially that unit of Landeskog, MacKinnon, and Rantanen play on like a nightly basis. Try and describe that for a casual fan because it's something else.
I mean, first as a defenseman, it'd be so hard to play against. They're so dynamic. I mean, they complement each other well. Nate has so much speed, and then Mikko can hold on to the puck and he protects it well, and he creates those own possession, and he can really hang on to it and wear teams down. And Landy is so good in front of the net. He plays a good two-way game. He's good defensively, so they rely on each other, and they really feed off each other well. But I think as a fan, that it's something that if you're not watching Colorado, it's something that any fan I think would really enjoy. They're dynamic. They're fun to watch. Good on the power play, but they're good 5-on-5 too. So I think you kind of compare it to any of the big lines in the league, whether it's the Kane to Brinkett combo with Taves, or whenever they put Matthews and Marner together. There's some big lines around the league, maybe the Ovi line, the Backstrom. So I think they're up there and maybe the best line in the league, the way they complement each other and the way they play. And in previous years, you've seen them basically account for the majority, if not all, of Colorado's offense. I think the team's gotten deeper, and with the addition of Kadri and people like Comfort getting older and Burakovsky having a good year, that we've gotten a lot deeper, so they're not carrying as much as the load. But um, as a fan, you should definitely be tuning in to watch these guys. They're exciting.
He says these guys like he's not a part of the team himself. You mentioned you mentioned the depth, and then how you guys are accruing depth. On defense is one of those places. Like you look at Cale Makar, obviously the season that he was having, but also like Bowen Byram waiting in the wings, Sam Girard. You guys were a really young defensive group, yet like continue to get deeper and not just get deeper with veteran talent, but get deeper with younger upcoming prospects, guys like I said, like Bowen Byram, Connor Timmins, I believe is another one. What's it like to kind of come up with that group and be able, you guys are really kind of coming up together and being this unit working towards something greater? Because you've probably played with a lot of these guys coming up, not just through the Avalanche, but through the Eagles as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I played with Timmins. He was hurt all last year. He had a bad injury in junior, had a concussion that lingered all through last season, so he didn't play any games last year. But I was around him a fair amount because he was doing his rehab kind of up and down. So he was with the Eagles and with the Avs, and then he made the team at a camp this year. So he and I were playing together, and he's a really good player. He's going to be really good. But yeah, it's nice. I mean, it's fun. We have fun. Our whole team is pretty young as a group. So, but we're very fortunate. Our back end's got a good balance too. We've got guys like Kale and Makar and then Byram coming up that are offensive, and then we've got guys like me and Cole, Zadorov, and Johnson that are more on the defensive side of things. And got a little bit of young, a little bit old. We're kind of me, Kale, and Gerard are still kind of trying to find our way. But guys like Johnson and Cole that you can really look up to that have been around, and Kohler was a Stanley Cup champion, and EJ's been through so much with being traded and being a first overall pick and how many years he's played, that those guys have been really good for us younger guys, especially me, because they kind of play a similar style. So I've been able to learn from them and bounce questions off them and ideas, and just they kind of point things out to me of to what to work on, or what to worry about, what not to worry about. So we've been really fortunate, honestly. But we have fun as a group. Like we are a pretty young team, and we keep it pretty light. So it's nice to have guys around your own age kind of going through the same thing, but it's a good balance. And I think our best years are to come. So I'm looking forward to it.
It's pretty wild that like a guy like Eric Johnson, I like, not that I'm old or anything by any means, but like I remember seeing, like, being a young kid and seeing Eric Johnson go like #1 overall in '06, and like he would be like probably one of the elder statesmen in your team, like you said, along like him and Cole, or Ian Cole. Let's talk about your career here in Charlottetown. Obviously, you were one of the few guys that had the opportunity, if you will, I want to use that word, to see the team transition from the PEI Rocket to the Charlottetown Islanders. Talk about your time here in Charlottetown, because obviously it's pretty close with you and dear to your heart. You're still living here now, but you were just a young guy when you came up, making the team as a 16-year-old. Talk about that experience.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was really, really fortunate to be drafted here. Obviously, it's become a second home to me. I have a little bit of family here. My mom's family is She has three siblings who live here on the island, so that was it made the transition to living here, the 16-year-old, that much easier. Um, but I was fortunate. It's close to home. I mean, the only team really closer would be Halifax, and after that, it's here in Moncton. So it was a blessing for me. But I really enjoyed my time here on PEI. My time with the Rocket, we weren't very good my first year, which was honestly kind of good for a 16-year-old coming in. You get to play a little bit more, and you're not so the team's not so much worried about you making mistakes, so you can kind of go out there and find your way through it. And there was definitely a lot of mistakes in the first year through me, through other guys that were playing. But no, it was cool. I got to play with players like Ben Duffy and Josh Curry, who were older than me. They were 19 and 20 when I came in, and then the transition into with the ownership and the GM and the coaches changing. I played for Gordy Dwyer the whole time, but I kind of got to feel what it was like before that, and how much the guys appreciated having Gordy there, how much they liked him, and he was there throughout my whole time, and he was really good for me. I feel I owe a lot to him, and to where the path my career has taken, just because he helped me along the way, kind of helped me figure some things out, and change some lifestyle things, whether it be training or just intensity around the game and the way I thought about it. So I'm really appreciative of him. And then I got to be part of it when they sold the team, and I mean, I loved it here. I was really upset when I found out the team was for sale, and then when the group of people from PEI bought it, I was so happy. And then I was traded from here that year, which was really hard because it had become a home to me, and I loved my life here. I was living with the Kylies, and I was dating my girlfriend at that time, so I really didn't want to leave. But the organization had taken leaps and bounds to it. It was run, I think, a lot better with the new ownership, and guys were having more fun. It was just enjoyable to be a part of, and the town was more excited about it, and we were getting better fans. And but I mean, it was something that needed to happen. They had guys like Dan Sprong coming up, and Cameron was older, and guys like P.O. Joseph were coming up through. So they wanted to unload the older guys, and they traded myself and Bebo and Marcotte to Val-d'Or, which was obviously really hard for me at the time, but it turned out to be a blessing for my career to be on a good team and to play with guys like Anthony Mantha, and to go on a cup run. We won the President's Cup that year, and then to go to the Memorial Cup, and that kind of just allowed me to keep growing as a player. So obviously, I really enjoy my time on PEI, hence why I still live here and train here all summer. But as far as career decisions go, I think it was the right decision for me to leave. But I look back at my time here, and wish it was a little bit longer, but very fond memories of playing for the Islanders and the Rocket.
So you mentioned the transition of ownership in there. And one thing I've always wondered in these situations, kind of the same idea with the advanced stats. Like, you hear the stories and you see them from like kind of like a fan perspective or from an outside perspective. What was the mood like amongst the players when the news came that the team was up for sale? Like you mentioned, like you were disappointed, you didn't want to leave, but like, is there like what's that kind of feeling like? You just heard like this team you've grown with, you've played with, all these guys, like this organization you've come to know, like it could not be there. Like, what's that feeling like?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was the main part was not wanting to leave PEI and not knowing what the future held for me, and I didn't know where my career was going to go. So it was obviously nice to be in a place that you enjoyed playing, and when you enjoy playing somewhere and you like the city, you want to be part of a good team that can bring a long playoff run there. So we were obviously, the whole team was, especially the guys in the Maritimes, really wanted to stay. So we were really happy when the group came together to keep it on the island. And whenever I'm home, I still go to Islander games, and I know a couple of the owners, so the ones that are part of the group. So I'm happy for them, and I think it's worked out really well. And as for a player, I mean, there was excitement coming in the next year. I mean, we were pretty bad my first year. We were a little better my second year, but it was nice. It was almost like we had a new life, and we were excited again, and we wanted to prove that we could be good, and we were happy to be back. So and the team's kind of just taking steps forward every year. So, and they're better and better each year. So um, again, I'm just happy that it stayed, and I was happy to be part of it.
Now, one player you mentioned there was Antoine Bibeau. It's a guy I wanted to talk to you about. Your guys' careers have kind of really intertwined over the last few years. You mentioned the trade to Val-d'Or, playing with him in there, playing with him here at PEI, Charlotte, then as the Islanders, and now lo and behold, you guys are back in the same organization after he was traded to to Colorado. How is that finding that out? You're like to find out this guy that you come up through was
Yeah,
back with you in the organization.
yeah, we're just kind of following each other everywhere. So he was traded to Valdor before I was, probably like a week prior, um, and he's a year older than I am, so he was 19 at the time. So it was kind of expected that he was going to be traded, as it was going to be his last year in the league, and they wanted to get something for him. So he was traded initially, and then when Valdor called about me, they called me and they said, like, do you want to go? And I was a little skeptical at first. And I called Bibbs, who had been there for a week already, and he said that the guys are super nice. Like, we're gonna be really good. Like, just come and you'll enjoy it. And we were friends there, and we've kind of had similar paths where both going to the American League at 20 and spending some time there. And he was up and down, and then kind of reunited in Colorado this year, where we had some injury issues with our goalies. So they traded for Bibbs, and he came in, and I think he played in Vancouver maybe, and he came in the game before in relief in Edmonton and played really well in relief, and I was really happy for him. And they gave him the start the next night in Vancouver, and we won that night, and proved that it was the right decision. And I was happy for him. I think he's a really good goalie. He's always been elite every time I've played for him. I think he might own the record for most saves in a Memorial Cup, which is always kind of a story that I tell when people ask me about Bibbs. It was our first game with Valdor, and we played to host London. It was the opening game, and they outshot us like 55-15 or something like that, and we won 1-0. Bibbs stood in his head the whole night. So it was kind of the story of the whole year with that team. We were super offensive, and we gave up a lot of grade A chances, and he would always bail us out. So I've always had a lot of respect for Bibbs, and he's a good goalie. So I was happy to see him get a chance at Colorado.
All right, slowly running out of time because I do not pay for the premium Zoom, and we're getting close to the 40-minute mark here. So I'm going to wrap up with a couple of quick questions. I'd like to kind of end on a bit of a higher note here. I want to ask you some questions kind of about playing with the Islanders and playing with the Rockets. Obviously, not to make you sound old, but like, different age, different time back then, which sounds ridiculous for me to say about 2012, but I'm just gonna ask you a couple quick questions about those teams, and your experience
Sure.
playing with them. So the first one obviously is gonna be, who was the toughest guy that you would have played against in the queue?
Mm. Um, I mean, the for sure answer is Nathan MacKinnon. When he was in Halifax, our first couple of years, he was so dominant. He was so fast, but he was only there 16, 17, so you didn't really get the full view of how good he was. But my first year was the year that St. John was really good. So they had Huberdeau and Phillips, and Charlie Coyle came over, and that team as a whole was just so good. We'd play them. I don't know what you play in division in the queue now. I think it's probably 8 games, and every game they'd spank us like 10-2 or 10-0 or something like that. That team was just so good. They had I think Spencer McDonald might have been on that team. They had Nathan Beaulieu and guys like that. They had Turkey Gallant coaching, and they were stacked head to toe. And that team as a whole was just so impressive.
So now inside your guys' locker room, who would have been the locker room DJ?
Oh, that's a long time ago now. Only thing I remember is in the Islanders locker room is the 20-year-old seats are right by the stereo. So
Yeah.
I think one of them. I think Josh Curry might have sat in that seat, but it's a big job, so I'm not sure who would have done it.
It's the exact same setup today. Nothing's changed. What was the? Do you remember what the song was? Did you guys have a victory song?
Oh, that's too long ago for me to remember now. That's like, geez, that'd be like 8 years ago at least now. So that's way. I don't even know what music would have been out then.
I couldn't even tell you. I
I
remember
do
the same
remember
way, like 8
actually.
years ago. I had no idea.
Gordy Dwyer, if anyone ever gets the chance, get him to sing "New Orleans is Sinking" by the Hip, and he can recite the whole thing off by heart. So he used to come in the locker room, and sometimes after wins, if he was fired up about a game, the really emotional guy, he'd come in and he'd start singing that song.
I've heard he's a huge, fabulously rich fan. The cover band that plays here in Charlottetown.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Oh yeah, I've never seen them, but apparently they're unreal. I know a bunch of people go. I know Spider and Kevy. What's it
Yeah,
I'm sure
Spider's a
Gordon
huge
along with
music
them.
fan, and then Gordy wasn't far behind him, so they're a good crew.
Now, obviously, Instagram was a thing when you were in junior, but not to the extent that it is today. If there was one teammate, you know, on your team that would have been Instagram famous, who would it have been?
Geez, I've had a couple funny teammates over the years. I think the first few years in Charlottetown, Kelly Bent was pretty funny. I remember they used to do like a rose delivery between, like, if you weren't playing, if you were hurt or you were scratched, you deliver roses to someone in the crowd during the game. And as a 16-year-old, we were in and out of the lineup all the time, so he would always make a big show whenever he delivered the roses. But other than that, I played with some funny guys over the years. But I think he'd have to be the one that I'd pick out of my junior days.
Who would have been big on TikTok?
I don't know. You guys should check out Thomas Casey's TikToks.
We've seen them already. I've featured them prominently on the Islanders TikTok account. The last one I had was who. It was a question that I saw the crew in Halifax asking a lot of their alumni, and I thought was a really interesting one. Who is a player that you would have played with, whether it be coming up through minor hockey, junior, wherever, that didn't get a shot at the pros that should have?
I mean, you always see guys that are so good at a young age, and then as everyone, whether it's physically they're bigger or they just kind of never continue to develop, and it happens with every sport. But I mean, there's a lot of guys that I can name. I remember there was a guy, I guess off the top of my head, there was a guy from Yarmouth that I used to play with and I'm still friends with. He actually played underage Canada games with me. He was a defenseman. He's a big guy. His name is Brendan Nickerson. And he was drafted to the Q. I think he was drafted to Sherbrooke. He never really had much success in the Q, but he was a guy that had so much talent that you always thought that he was gonna play somewhere someday. And I mean, it didn't work out for him, but I mean, he's happy now. He's a great guy, but he was better than me, and he was younger than me. Like, always growing up, he'd play up a year, and then, but he, off the top of my head, especially from the South Shore area, it definitely have to be him.
Right on. That's awesome to hear. Well, we're probably getting close for time here, so I'll wrap up now. Ryan, thanks again. I really appreciate you taking the time this evening to chat
For
with
sure,
us.
no
And
problem.
best of luck with whatever happens with the rest of you guys' season, whether you're going or you're not. Best of luck with it.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot.
Not a problem. That was Ryan Graves, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate you dropping by. We'll see you next week, Tuesday, 7 p.m. as per always. I'm Aiden Northcott. Have a good night.